Hello, everybody. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. I do appreciate it as always. It is another Sunday afternoon here in the recording studio for me on what has turned out to be a pretty nice weekend here in Kansas City. I hope everybody was able to get out, get some miles in, and enjoy the nice weather. Hopefully it's nice wherever you are. I understand right now we're a very regional podcast, but we do have some stretch across the country. I know we've had people checking in from other states. I can't tell you how happy that makes me. That is super cool. Even though we talk about a lot of Kansas City stuff, because that's where we're located, running is a universal language. And all of us runners, no matter where we're at, no matter what kind of races we do and our distances and this, that, and the other, like we all speak this same language. We're all part of this cool kids club, as I like to think of it, because I'd like to think I'm a cool kid, maybe. It's really been a lot of fun for me getting to know people from other states who have been listening in. I thank you guys. Of course, our social media presence is we're really trying to grow. You can find us on Facebook at Back of the Pack Podcast. Instagram still blowing up huge for us at Back of the Pack Podcast. We're on Twitter, although I don't do much with that. I need to get better. I'll admit it. And then listen, folks, here's how serious I'm trying to get about this thing. And if you know me, you'll know this is a big deal. I'm a 42-year-old man. I'm not up with all this cool stuff that the kids are doing these days. But I have considered, under the banner of growing this podcast, trying to learn and figure out TikTok. If that will somehow make us grow, I will do it for you and for your enjoyment. But yes, I've been told that in order to keep expanding the reach of this program, I'm going to have to do TikTok. I cannot tell you how much that hurts me deep inside. But anyway, I digress. On to the show. Like I said, running here in the early spring in Kansas, we've lucked out with some warm days. Here's the problem with Midwestern running. And if you're from around here, you know it. We might get an unseasonably warm day, but there is something else that we will get along with it. And that is wind. That is gusting wind. That is consistent wind constantly in your face, no matter really what direction you're running in. The wind will always find you. So right now, that is what we are dealing with here is just a ton of wind. So no race for me this weekend. Again, I got a couple training runs in on Friday and today on Sunday, 3.5 miles apiece. Felt mildly decent. Remember, I just did a half marathon last weekend. So still getting the legs back underneath me from that. And I've got a half marathon coming up this next weekend. If you are here in the area, then of course you have heard of Rock the Parkway. Rock the Parkway is a half marathon that has a 5K option. They've been around for, this might be race 13 or 14. I'm going to go with that. 13 or 14, final answer. No, you know what? Not final answer. Sorry, Regis. I'm going to say maybe 11 to 12, somewhere in there. Either which way. This is going to be my 9th running of this half marathon. This one holds kind of a place in my heart, like the last one did for different reasons, the one I talked about on the last show. This one, Rock the Parkway 2011, that was my first half marathon ever. It was my first. So, of course, you never forget your first half marathon. That was mine. It was Rock the Parkway. It was actually held on April 2nd, 2011. So that was actually a mildly decent half marathon time for me. Again, I don't mind sharing my times with you guys. It's why this show is called Back of the Pack. I ran that in 2 hours, 46 minutes, and 57 seconds. So, of course, that was my very first PR. I have since eclipsed that. I've done better than that. I've also done infinitely worse. So I told you last week about the Liberty Hospital half marathon. It had the rather unique distinction of being my worst half marathon finishing time ever. And Rock the Parkway, it followed suit in that same year. 2019 was just not my year for running. That was the worst half marathon time ever. And it was also my worst time for Rock the Parkway, where I came in at 3 hours, 29 minutes, and 32 seconds. So yuck. That, unfortunately, is the last taste I had in my mouth of this race because, again, it was 2019. 2020's race was canceled due to the coronavirus. And then last year in 2021, the race was run in August. And I'm not about to run a half marathon in the Midwest in late August. That is a recipe for disaster. And I understand why they had to do it. Again, trying to adjust to a world in a pandemic. But I am very grateful that here for 2022, they've moved it back to its original month, its normal month of April. So I look forward to my 9th running of Rock the Parkway. It's coming up next weekend for me, 6 days away. Again, I'm going to try and get back to a half marathon in under 3 hours. Last week, I missed it by 90 seconds. This week, I hope to finally get back under 3 hours for my first time in over 8 years. So wish me luck. Wish me luck. Hey, we're runners, we're a supportive community. If there are any time goals that you are trying to get to, then I wish you the best of luck in reaching those goals as well. With the more national news that we talk about from time to time, the New York Marathon, as I told you last week, they did get their list out for all the people who have made the race. If you were in the lottery, then I hope like heck that you made it. I really do. I am really rooting for everyone to be able to run that race at least once. If you can hear the sound of my voice in this particular episode and you are now in the 2022 New York Marathon, please let us know. Hit us up on social media. I would love to kind of track your progress, track your training, give you support, whether it's just an attaboy or an attagirl for getting a good run in, whatever your case is, because the New York Marathon is awesome. And I hope that everyone who ever wants to run a full marathon can make it to New York someday. Heck of an experience. So if you made it in, congratulations. If you did not make it in, then hey, let's give it a try next year. All you can do is just get your name right back in the draft next year and see if you have better luck. The other one that we talked about was the Marine Corps Marathon, that being held in October. I told you that registration was just open. No draft, no names out of a hat. Registration was just open. So hopefully when you heard that last week, you jumped on it quickly and you were able to get a spot, because as of now, the field is full. So full field for the Marine Corps Marathon being held in October in Arlington, Virginia. Again, another just dream race that I was fortunate enough to do back in 2015. It's another race that it just moves you. It just hits different when you are finishing in front of the statue of Iwo Jima, the Iwo Jima Memorial Statue in Arlington National Cemetery. And, they take your picture with that in the background, your medal around your neck. Like, that race is it's a different thing altogether. So another one, if you want to do a marathon, I highly recommend that one. But the field is full. So again, try it again next year. And if there's no draft, then man, hop on in. I can tell you right now, I am going to run that race in 2025. I'm going to try and get in there by hook or crook, because that'll be the 50th running of the Marine Corps Marathon. So if you want to wait for me, let's do it in 2025, because I am in. With that, and as we talked about, I've got a half marathon coming up this weekend. There's a whole bunch of schedules and tips and tricks and trainings for getting ready for a half marathon. There's 12-week programs, 14-week programs, 16-week programs. There's whatever distance you want. Honestly, I'm a fan of the 16-week programs because I feel like I need all the structured guidance I can possibly get. I'm still not great at following it most of the time, but I do try and stick to a 16-week program. But where they all kind of fall short is the taper. We all know about tapering. Everyone hates tapering. Tapering is the worst. But there's tapering, and then there's the week before the race. And the week before the race is where I think the biggest difficulties lie, because you're not running, or you're running very little. You feel like you eat, you don't run. So you're gaining weight exponentially. You feel like you're getting big. Like, I've had all of these thoughts before, and it's really a mental challenge when you're coming up on that last week. So I went out and I wanted to find some tips and tricks for that last week of training. Found something here on a site that's called Very Well Fit. Fitness site that I've been kind of floating around on for a little bit. It's nice. They got a lot of nice tips and tricks on running and just your overall general fitness. So everything I share here comes from them. I give credit where credit is due. They put a nice piece together just about the week before your race. So, like the final long distance training, that's done. That's all been done for 2 or 3 weeks. You got your long runs in. And so the weekend before is where they throw out the word tapering. You have to give your muscles a chance to rebuild and restore, rather than stressing them out with increased mileage. Now, if you're like me, then we're not great at that, because I tend to keep running all the way up to before the race. And it's like the kid in school. It's like I'm cramming for the test. I didn't do the homework. I didn't do the study guide. I'm just cramming the night before the test. So when I have a long race coming up, I figure, okay, well, if I go out and do 5 or 6 miles 3 days before the race or 2 days before the race, that'll equal, running a half marathon with no problem. Yeah, no, not so much. That's totally me, though. I am guilty as charged. So they also talk about the diet and carb loading. Carb loading is the runner's favorite excuse to gorge ourselves on spaghetti. And again, guilty as charged, sitting right here talking into a microphone. But here's what they say about that, because a lot of people go back and forth about the carb loading. Yeah, carb load. No, don't carb load. Here's what they say. In my eyes, it makes a little bit of sense. And I'm just going to read this word for word to you. The week before your race, eat a healthy, balanced diet. Current thinking in sports training is that excessive carbo loading is not needed. This is no time to change your diet dramatically. Don't overeat. Avoid foods that give you gas or loose stools, especially in the 2 days before your race. Avoid alcohol and high caffeine energy drinks in the 2 days before your race to help prevent dehydration. So these are some people that are not on board with the carb loading. So you do not need to go out to your favorite Italian restaurant and order one of everything. You may want to. I want to right now, but you probably shouldn't do that in the week before your race. So be careful on the carb loading. And then again, we're runners. We talk openly about our stools. Let's just call it what it is. But yeah, stay away from the stuff that you know is going to get your stomach moving and churning. We all need to hit that porta john before a race, but don't make it where you need to hit it maybe 2 or 3 times before the race. Yeah, that doesn't come from them. That comes from me personally, from me to you. The next one is read the race instructions. I love doing this. Like, this is one of my favorite things to do. I love to study the race that I'm about to do. And when you get your participant email, like the week of the race where it gives you all the final instructions, I love that. I always read those emails like twice. So, here's a few things that they point out. Where do you pick up your race packet and what hours and days are open? Do you need your registration number, verification, and identification? Can somebody else pick up your packet, or do you have to pick them up on your own? Like here at a lot of the local 5Ks, you can pick up your stuff. You can pick up your buddy's stuff. You can pick up your spouse's stuff, your kid's stuff. You can pick up anybody's stuff. You can just give them a name and hope that person has a packet and you can pick it up. When you get to the bigger races, the New York Marathons, the Marine Corps, the Berlins, the full stuff, you have to get that stuff yourself, and you have to prove you are who you say you are. So always keep in mind that you might have to prove yourself, whether it be giving them their registration number or just presenting ID. The New York Marathon, I had to do both. I had to have a copy of an email that they had sent out, and I had to have my identification. And in the world we live in now, I also had to have proof of vaccination. So I had to give them all 3 things in order to get my bib for the New York Marathon. Next, how will you get to the starting line and home from the finish? What transportation concerns do they warn you about? Will you be shuttled to a distant starting point? Again, worth knowing, the bigger the race, the more of a chance you're not parking anywhere near the start line. You have to be ready to kind of figure out your transportation to and from. The race that I have coming up, I always arrive early so that I can park in the parking lot that is close-ish to the start and finish line. It's always a little bit of a trek back to the car after the race, but I know where my car is. I know how I have a easy route out to get to the road and to make a turn and not run into closed roads or any issues that might delay me from getting home. Because after a race, I want to go home. I know that's crazy, right? Next, is there a gear drop? Some races have been eliminating this in the name of safety concerns, and races that once offered it may not now. Be sure you know where it is in the starting area and also where the gear pickup will be and how long the both will remain open. So again, I'm not a bag dropper. I don't check bags. I think I've done it once in my running career. Not my thing. But if you do, definitely keep track of when, where, how, and why. And then what on-course support is offered and where are the locations for water, sports drink, and toilets. In most races, that's every 1.5 miles to 2 miles. I have done a race where it was every 4. That one got my attention, but I was thankful that I went through the participant guide and saw that beforehand. If I had just learned on the course that there were 8 stations every 4 miles, would not have been happy. See, where can your family and friends view you on the race and cheer you on the course? Again, the bigger races have that concern, smaller races, not so much. What are the time limits and logistics if you fall behind? That's a big one, especially with kind of the group that this show caters to. I've never been swept off of a course, but I've had the sweep truck right behind me on my heels. Oh, yeah, I sure have. So always check the time limit. So the Chicago Marathon and the New York Marathon, I think both have 6.5-hour time limits. I was beyond 6.5 hours on both. Both let me finish. It really takes you falling behind the pace by a lot for them to try and sweep you off. I think the bigger races understand the importance to everyone of finishing a race. So they're going to give you every opportunity to do so. But by all means, don't be lollygagging. Don't be back there talking to friends and just hooting and hollering and have a good time. Make sure you are knees to chest and get yourself moving. Get those legs going. Don't test them. I guess where I'm going with that. Just don't test that sweet truck. I've not had a problem, but I don't want you guys to have a problem. I certainly don't want a problem. Just keep hoofing it. Let's keep moving. Let's see. Are there any rules and restrictions such as no headphones, no strollers or pets, no walking poles? Every race on God's green earth has said no headphones. I've ignored them every time. Sorry. Should I tell you all that? Probably shouldn't, but I do. If you're a part of a team or charity marathon group, verify any meetings or social activities you will have before, during, or after the race. There we go. Coordinate with companions. If you are racing with a companion or a group sharing a ride to and from the race, finalize all plans and time schedules early in the week. Be sure you have all the contact information for them, especially if you're traveling. If you're providing the ride, gas up the car, make sure it is in working order early in the week. So this is all kind of, the no duh part of this spiel, but hey, if it helps you or it's a good reminder, then please take it. The next one they talk about, I'm not going to read much about this, is sleep well. No kidding. Get your rest. Check the weather forecast. I do. Boy, the moment race day is on the extended forecast, I'm watching, I'm looking every day. I want to know what I'm running in. And, honestly, I can handle whatever Mother Nature throws at me as long as I've got a reasonable expectation as to what it's going to be. Now, I've been surprised at a few races. A few races called for sunny skies and I got rain. A few called for rain and it was sunny. But I'd like to think, and I'm sure a lot of you are all the same way, we can really make do with whatever the weather throws at us. If you need to add a layer, take a layer away, we can make that happen. And it's really not a problem. Just make sure if it's going to be hot, dress for the heat. If it's going to be cold, dress for the cold. And, rain comes and goes, but the temperature is where I really kind of put everything out. Let's see. Next, get your gear ready. Yep, no kidding. I don't know about you guys, but I always lay out flat Kyle the night before. Sometimes I'll even take a picture of flat Kyle. We all have our flat selves where we lay out our shirt, our pants, our socks, our shoes, any apps and gadgets that we're going to use. We pin our bib on our shirt, maybe put the headband towards the top, your hat, whatever you might do. That's the flat you. So as I say, I go from flat Kyle to fat Kyle, and it works out great. But yeah, always have your gear ready the night before. That way you're not caught on race morning looking for something or trying to figure out where something went. Make sure it's all right there in front of you, head to toe. There's nothing wrong with that. Make sure you set out your glide or whatever you use to prevent chafing. That's a big deal. I always make sure that's part of flat me and that it's sitting right by the side. Actually, sometimes I just stick it in my running shoes so that I know where it is. But yeah, you can't go out without the anti-chafing cream. That just doesn't work. Never a good idea. Prepare your racing shoes is something that they offer. Again, that to me goes as part of flat Kyle. Just making sure that my shoes good to go, laced up. Laces are not breaking or not going to fall apart on me. Shoes are there, dried out, whatever you need to do. And then you get all your other race gear ready. Pack a bag if you need to. And again, if you're all about checking a bag, then go right ahead. That's just not something that I particularly do, but I support all of those who do. And then the last one, and I like this, roll with the surprises. With all the best laid plans, something will go wrong. Having everything prepared the night before the race lets you roll with the surprises on race morning. Headphones break, cell phones fall out of your pack. Your racing partner forgets his timing chip and bib. You get a race morning diarrhea. You may be stuck in a 30-minute traffic jam getting to the starting point. These small disasters will rarely derail your marathon, and they will make for good stories later. Okay, so along those lines, and again, since I'm a single host here, all I can really do is relate things to me. I'm not trying to sound that selfish, me. But I am going to tell you a funny story, and you guys can laugh at my expense. You want to talk about roll with surprises or the things you should not do before a race? My very first trip to New Orleans was for the New Orleans Marathon. This was back in 2013. I want to say 2013, 2014 at the latest. One of those 2 years. The race was right after Mardi Gras. Well, right after Mardi Gras is my birthday. So I was going to be down in New Orleans for my birthday 2 days before the marathon. So I was down there with 3 people and we went out on Bourbon Street on my birthday. Bad decisions followed. Really bad. To say that I did not do anything to make the chances of a successful marathon, I did not do anything to make those chances better, only did things to make those chances worse. all of those things happened. So I was in terrible straits on Bourbon Street 2 days before a full marathon. So the next day, the one day before the full marathon, all I did was drink water all day, but I still could not recover my hydration, still could not get my stomach under control. So you can imagine that come race morning, I was I was one sad sack crackerjack, let me tell you. It was not a good race, not a good race. Here I thought it was going to be a good race. It was my second full marathon ever, and it was terrible. My first marathon was greatly superior to the one that I did in New Orleans. So that was rolling with some surprises, as this says. You know, your best laid plans are great, but there can always be a monkey wrench, whether an accidental monkey wrench or a self-inflicted monkey wrench just thrown into your race and your race preparation. So there's that. That is what you can do. Just this is kind of a rundown of the week before. If you ever want to know about further out than that, and if you want to learn more about taper, I'm sure we'll have an episode about tapering, and we'll have episodes about training plans. But you know, the week before is a really odd time. It's really difficult. It really messes with runners' heads. So trust me, I know the week before a race can be really, really strange. Another thing we're going to talk about, and this actually just came up today on social media, where someone was talking about the Rock the Parkway half marathon that I'll be at next weekend that they are volunteering at. And I thought, hey, that's really cool. You know, volunteering at a race. They said it was something that was on their bucket list. It was on something they've always wanted to do, volunteer at a race. So I sat there and I said to myself, we've never volunteered at a race. Here, I've run almost 200. I've never actually worked a race before. I think working a race sounds interesting. I'm always thankful for the volunteers. I'm always very nice to the people at the aid stations who hand me water and Gatorade and the things that keep me from dying on the course. You know, someday I would like to do that. And then the little light bulb in my head that barely flickers sometimes, it kind of sparked up a little bit. And I said, hey, light bulb, what's up? We should do a podcast aid station. And I was thinking, well, when can we make that happen? Well, a lot of that's going to depend on how quickly this podcast grows. And a lot of that's going to depend on how involved in it you great folks want to be. So here's my goal. 2023, next year, the Kansas City Marathon. That's October. I would like to have a Back of the Pack sponsored aid station at the Kansas City Marathon in October of 2023. Do you think we can make that happen? If you can hear this and you're still listening to this show, I would love for you to respond. I would love for you to say, I'm in. I would like us to get enough people wearing podcast show t-shirts to control an aid station for the Kansas City Marathon, half marathon, 10K and 5K. I think that would be awesome. That would be a great way for us all to get together, meet if we haven't, do something for the running community, help racers that we support fully. I love this idea, not just because it was my idea, because it really wasn't. I got this idea from somebody else who talked about volunteering. I just chose kind of the date and time. But yeah, let me know if you'd be in on that, because I think it would be really cool if we all got together and had a Back of the Pack podcast sponsored aid station for the Kansas City Marathon in October of 2023. There we go. That's my plan. And again, I would love everyone's support. Lastly, we have the website, of course, www.backofthepackpodcast.com. We do now have a shop. The shop is live. The shop is getting kinks worked out of it right now. I've got a test order out there just to see how things go. I'll report back on that just to give everyone the all clear. But for right now, go take a look. Go take a look at the shop. It's very limited at this moment, but it's going to grow. And it would be a great way for you guys to get the t-shirts that you may or may not want to wear while you're running. You know, I would love to see someone out at a race wearing a Back of the Pack podcast shirt. Oh, it would make me so happy. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. www.backofthepackpodcast.com. Go to the store, take a look around, see if there's anything that you like. If you have any suggestions, I am 100% open to them. I will report back after our test run is done to make sure that everything works swimmingly. If so, then you guys are going to be green light. And let's get everyone in a shirt and just kind of take over the Kansas City running community, even if it's the back of all the races. Most of the shirts are teal colored. That's kind of the color of the show. So here's what I want. At some of the local races, we can have all the elite guys at the front, all the people in their fancy running gear in the middle, and then a bunch of teal t-shirts in the back, just ready to have a good time at the race. Sounds perfect to me. That's where we're going to stop for this week. Again, half marathon for me next weekend. I will be back. I'll have the write-up of Rock the Parkway. We'll do a podcast and talk about it. And we're just going to keep on going. Running season is upon us. You got to love spring in the Midwest. The races are getting fast and furious, hot and heavy. I'm going to be at as many of them as I possibly can. I hope you guys will find me. I will have a Back of the Pack podcast t-shirt for myself for Rock the Parkway. So look for the guy in teal and come say hello. I would be so happy if one of my listeners just came up and said hey to me. So thank you very much for joining us as always. I really do appreciate the time. I appreciate your efforts, your feedback, your likes, your shares, your follows, your comments, all of it. I thank you so much. My name is Kyle Walker. I am the voice of the Back of the Pack podcast. Back of the Pack podcast is a feature on OKKC Sports. You can find them at www.okkcsports.com. You can listen into the Red Kingdom Reaper, the Royal Court podcast, Back of the Pack podcast. And again, those all feature me, Kyle Walker, and everything is mixed and put together and graphically designed for your viewing and listening pleasure by the lovely and talented Katie O'Neill, who does all the work that you don't hear about, but you just see. So make sure you show her some love anytime possible. Again, I'm Kyle Walker. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on next week's episode of the Back of the Pack podcast.